Hey everybody, it's Annabelle, the VTuber demon that wants to play for fun, and I hereby invite everyone to join me on my adventures through Marvel Snap. So on today's adventures through Marvel Snap, we are taking a look at the newest card to enter the character spotlight, that being Ajax. Ajax started out as a man known only as Francis. He was an enforcer at a laboratory known as the Workshop. He acted as the strongarm for them, reining in the project washouts that were used as guinea pigs for sadistic experiments whenever they stepped out of line. This included one Wade Wilson. He also had himself modified. He had his nerves removed for better pain management. He also received implants for super speed and agility. Ajax, after endless haunting from Wilson, went to kill him, but after removing his heart, Wilson's healing factor manifested itself, regenerating a new heart, but at the cost of his sanity. Now taking the code name Deadpool, Wilson hunted him down and thought he had killed Francis, but he somehow survived and resurfaced years later as Ajax. Ajax then hunted down and killed many of the surviving members of Weapon X Project in order to exact his revenge on them. Ajax is an extremely sadistic, violent, egotistical, and brutal. He is sensitive about his real name and admits to being jealous of Deadpool's healing factor, harboring a small amount of respect for him, claiming that he likes a challenge. That being said, he only cares about his own ambition. With a calm demeanor, he never loses his temper with anyone, except Deadpool, even when the situation is not at all in his favor. Ajax is convinced that he is right, and is closed-minded to other points of view, no matter how they are presented to him. Carrying a certain arrogance, it is clear that he thinks that he is better than everyone else. He gets completely caught up in his own vision to a dangerous extent. He has refused to consider other future paths. He is cold, uncaring, lacking empathy or any kindness, only thinking about his own well-being. Ajax had himself modified to be immune to pain, having his nerves altered for better pain management, to make him immune to all but the most excruciating pain, as well as having received subcutaneous implants to have superhuman strength, speed, reflex, and durability. He wears a titanium-laced body armor with enhanced sensors enabling him to perceive the skeleton's or nervous system, and carries a metallic shield with unknown properties, making him quite the fearsome opponent. Ajax had his nerves removed for better pain management. This is represented in Marvel Snap as he will take any and all pain that he can and turn it into his strength. So in Marvel Snap, what this character is he's a 5 cost, 7 power, with the description of ongoing. He will get +1 power for each card in play that is affected with negative energy, whether it's on his side or the opponent's side. Now, here's the problem with Ajax. I really tried as hard as I could to come up with some way of him being a really good card. And after going through so many iterations, I couldn't come up with too many things that worked well with him. He is pretty much the definition of everything about this card would be better if it was slightly changed. Now, he doesn't make them completely unplayable, which is why I'm giving him a 2-star. So let me explain what I'm talking about. The fact that he is ongoing is such a pain. I would either like him to be like Echo, which is one of the things that actually bites him, is an Echo being played against because he's on. But I'd rather him be like an Echo, where this was an actual, like, static ability, where this just happened regardless, or it wasn't ongoing or on. I would almost rather him be on reveal, because then you could do the on reveal on him, and then you could play the Luke Cage afterward. That's one of his biggest problems. Luke Cage in general is one of his biggest problems. If Luke Cage gets played on your opponent's side, you are losing all the stats from your opponent's side with one slight caveat. If you throw over a Green Goblin or a Hobgoblin, you won't lose the negative power on that because the negative power comes from the Green Goblin itself. Luke Cage does not negate that effect. But you are not gaining power off the card. You are just redistributing power off the card. And because you are redistributing the power on this card, you really aren't gaining any stat. If somehow, some way, this negated the negative power and then gave it to Ajax, that would mean this card would be huge because it's so hard. But when you look at this card, okay, technically this is a Black Bolt in just stats, and almost close to how good Black Bolt is. For Black Bolt will discard one card from your opponent, and if that's an important card, you're going to win the game. Where Ajax is a 5/7 that if your opponent can't do anything about the negative effect, it's going to maybe win you a game if not totally win you. Because here's the thing. This is one of the few cards out there that has the ability to get plus 24 on. But he counts himself. Because of the fact that he counts himself and doesn't take every other card, he counts your opponent's side. This is a card that can go all the way to having plus 24 on. It is hard for me to say that a card that can basically get up to 31 if things go right, it's still a hard card to play. And that's because it's the ongoing effect. If this was a static effect, it would be better. Rogue is so in the meta right now because of Aerostone. Rogue taking this is going to make you cry because you're trying not to play your own Luke Cage in this deck. One of the cards that is interesting about this would be a Mysterio. The whole idea is that you kind of flood your board. And on turn 1, you play the Squirrel Girl. Turn 2, you play the Mysterio. Turn 3, you play the Debris. Then you basically negative all the stuff on your side of the board. And then your opponent doesn't care about getting rid of that effect. But when you do that, all the parts of Mysterio, all the parts of Squirrel Girl, all the parts of Debris still get negative effects to them. That you're not gaining power off of it. You're just redistributing. Mystique is a great follow-up to this card, and part of the thing with Mystique is if Ajax was brought down to even a 4/4, I would rather have Ajax be a 4/4 than a 5/7, believe it or not. Because with Ajax being a 4/4, that means on turn 7 you can play Ajax and Mystique and get this big hit off. One of the biggest problems is this card has to go with Hazmat for almost all intents and purposes. If you're not putting Hazmat, the only other thing that you're basically looking at is some version of basically doing an Annihilus build. And if you're going that deep into an Annihilus, I'm not sure you have the slot at 5 to use. Because that's usually the turn you want to play the Annihilus. Sometimes you want to play the Annihilus on 6 because you just want a surprise turn. So maybe this becomes the Nihilist turn 5. Turn 4, you play the Sentry. Turn 5, you play the Ajax. Turn 6, you play the Nihilist, and you flip everything over and you just gain the points from that. I mean, that's not the worst idea in the world, and that's where he kind of lives. The other problem is right now running around in the meta is Super Scroll because, again, of Ajax and the Darkhawks that are running around. Super Scroll basically, for lack of a better word, negates the ability of Ajax, because as good as your Ajax is, they will have better stuff that are playing and get the same ability of Ajax. Now, one of the cards that is interesting in this is like the US Agent, because you can get, it's hard to get negative effects at sometimes with stuff like Scorpion and with stuff like Celine, but you can do stuff like US Agent. So on the last turn, you know an opponent's got some stuff, you can play the US Agent, but the problem is this fights it again because it's a 5 cost. At a 4 cost, you play both of these together. Play them even on the same location. Take the -4 and gain the +1 back. And that's the thing, it's not a reciprocal effect. If with US Agent, you played US Agent down, and you had a 5 or 6 or 4 on the same location as US Agent, Ajax isn't getting +4, he's getting +1. So you have to be careful of anything that doesn't give just -1 power. Another big thing to kind of look at in this is the Spectrum. The Spectrum is basically, it's an ongoing effect. You build a whole ongoing deck with stuff like Ant-Man, and you can even put in stuff like Iron Man. And then at the end, you do the Spectrum, but you don't want to put Iron Man in here because Iron Man, if it gets -1 somehow, that's going to double the -1 power. This is basically trying to take away the fact that if you play a whole deck that's ongoing, you need to give everything to you take away 1, but then you can only take away 1, then you give the. It's such a mathematical funness, and part of that falls around Typhoid Mary. You're trying to play the Typhoid Mary to give everything -1. The -1 from the Typhoid Mary, the Spectrum gives it all +2, and then you get the total of +1 because +2 -1 is still +1. It's just one of these cards where it's like every single part of it just is like 1 or off. If it was on reveal, you could use the Luke Cage. If it was static, you could be better. It could be a counter for stuff like Super Scroll. It could be its own Luke Cage. If it removes the negative ability, if it said, hey, take away that negative power and instead gain that much energy, or gain 1. Remove each card with negative energy and then gain +1. But that's the problem. Anytime you're inflicting more than 1, the way it's written is not you get +1 for each negative card in play. You don't get +1 for each negative point in play. You get +1 for each card in play. So stuff like Cyclops, that does it twice. Stuff like Wasp, any card that has -2 power, you're still getting +1 power from. And there's not too much you can do if your opponent's playing a Luke Cage. And it's to get the real power off of it, you need to run a hazmat because you want to inflict everything. If there's even only 6 cards on the entire board, you want to use the hazmat so you can technically get the +6, but then you're still out whatever is on your side. That's part of the issue. I almost wish this would have been something like a Luke Cage type of card where it would absorb all that. And then it could have been a static card, kind of like an anti a Luke Cage, but just for static, because the problem with Luke Cage is Luke Cage has such a problem with Rogue and with Super Scroll and with Echo and with Enchantress and with a million other cards. This would basically do it. Even if it just got +1 and didn't get all the negative back, it'd be a super power strike on that. But other than that, in this week, we've got Beta Ray Bill. You don't care about Beta Ray Bill. I don't care about Beta Ray Bill. Nobody cares about Beta Ray Bill. It had, like, 1 week, if even that, where it was semi-relevant. And since then, it has gone to the scrap. Other card in here is Darkhawk. Darkhawk is the card to get for this particular one. I would almost waste keys to get Darkhawk right now. With how Airsham's running around, you kind of need a Darkhawk. If for no other reason, then Darkhawk is to the point where it should be Series 3. It should have been Series 3 a while ago, and they just will not let this card come down. If you look at my collection, not only do I own a Darkhawk, I own a variant of the Darkhawk. I own 2 variants of the Darkhawk. This card needs to be brought down to 3. I don't think they will ever bring it down to 3. This is going to stay at 4 for the rest of its life. So, I will say this. If you do not have Darkhawk, this is a good week to root. If you do have Darkhawk, I would leave this cache alone. Beta Ray Bill is not worth it, and Ajax isn't worth it. I, however, will be rolling because I always do, because that's how I make content. So let's find out what's in the box. Box is Grandmaster. Ooh, I don't think I've ever done a Grandmaster before. That might be a brand new card for me. Let me check real quick. Yep, that is a brand new card for me. Alright, so this Friday I will be doing a deck on Grandmaster. If you want to see that, come find me Friday. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.